if 10 people downloaded it, I'd be super happy.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I have low expectations. Did
No.
did any of us die? No. Did it kill anyone else? No. Does everyone have their limbs? Yes.
Yeah.
It was a win day. We won today. We outright won today. Like that's that's the so.
Right on.
I do have a subject of conversation though. Like we're like attempting to move insurance companies. Has either of you guys done that? That is like
Never.
a absolutely painful extravaganza of bullshit.
Really? Like
Yeah.
we've had the same insurance company for our entire existence. So I think the first couple of years we were riding dirty. So maybe 8 or 9 years now. Knock on wood, I've never had to use them though. So every time I need something, they've been able to pull it up for me, like an updated insurance slip or whatever. But we haven't had to deal with a theft or something like that, or an insurance claim. Other than that, so I can't.
Our problem was that it's just like we were trying to find someone that was a bit like so that like our insurance company is very strict about drivers, commercial drivers. They have to have had their DZ license or AZ license for 3 years.
3 years.
They have to be able to prove that they've driven somewhere for 3 years and have a reference from their previous employer and their previous employer's insurance company. And like trying to get people insured is like next to fucking impossible. So we were realistically just looking for a more amicable company. I don't actually have a problem with the company, but like we're just searching for someone. But like the amount of questions, like we did this like thing, there was like 100 questions. They said, where do you advertise? Like, what the fuck do you care? You're an insurance company. Like, I have a website. I have Instagram. Like, what do you care where I advertise? Like it's totally ridiculous. Like, I don't, anyways, we've never switched before, so I didn't realize how intrusive it was, but,
so I had actually not quite the same, but similar. So I just like updated my disability insurance. Wait, is that a thing? Wait, if you get hurt at work, is it disability? Like private disability insurance?
If you're the owner,
yeah. So I got to have however much to cover my.
Although you are paying WSIB for yourself, so never collect. But whatever.
Oh, yeah.
It's an argument for a different day.
That's so. Well, anyway, this week the paperwork got filled out. I got a random call from someone who said they were part of my insurance. It was this Indian guy, and he said I could hardly understand him, but I remember hearing on the phone he needed to come to my house to get my blood and my urine, which is not a normal thing for me, I guess. So I said, I'm busy at work this week. Call me later. Hung up, called my insurance agent, and she's like, yeah, that's a thing. Like, it's real. They have to come to your house and take your blood and your urine for your updated policy or whatever. But I was not under the impression that someone actually came to your house.
I had an insurance agent come to my house for life insurance and
take your blood.
My blood. I remember them doing my blood pressure and like checking my heart somehow with some kind of.
Oh, maybe he said he was going to take my blood pressure, not my blood.
I honestly don't remember them taking my blood. Some kind of strange insurance vampire going around grabbing blood willy-nilly, but
I would be much more inclined to let him come over if he was going to take my blood pressure and urine instead of my blood and urine. I have this thing for needles. I don't love needles.
Like that's what they were taking from me.
Awesome.
So I don't know. Anyway, this guy has to call me back within 5 days, so I'll let you know if he took blood or if he took blood pressure.
You should try to meet him in a public area. So
in a public area, yeah. Well, he's my insurance guy, right? He already has the address. Where do they send the check if you get hurt?
Who knows? Some of those insurance things, I always feel like I'm endlessly paying into them, and then we're never gonna.
Well, it
always seems like something's gonna happen.
You never have to get them, right? Yeah. Like that's the whole goal.
I'm pretty sure I have that disability insurance too, on top of like paying WSIB as the owner, even though I could never collect it.
Yeah.
I don't have life insurance or anything, but I don't think I need to until like I actually have a kid.
Until you have a family.
You guys aren't. Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, screw your wife, Mike. She can just fucking make it out for herself.
Yeah, I guess.
Mike's dead. He left me nothing. He rented all his equipment. He never even bought anything. I can't even sell it off.
There's no assets to sell or
All he
anything.
left me with is a bunch of rental bills and a great connection for 5-yard bins in Kitchener.
She's gonna be the new host of Out of Hardscape, and
that's right. Yeah.
Not Our Finest Hour.
That's
so you better make sure this thing survives. Because that's all she's getting in the will.
We had to do wills too.
I got to do one of those.
That was another horrible process.
Yeah. I got to get a will. Every winter I say I'll do it, and then I don't do it. They won't call me back. The lawyers never call back. So I guess they're like landscapers.
Yeah, contractors in general.
Never call back.
People say like you're always busy. Why? And I'm like, I don't know. I like reply to emails and answer my phone. Like, you probably don't.
Yeah.
Like it.
I
honestly, like I don't. Well, there you go. But you're just gonna fax back tenders.
Yeah. Well, not fax. I don't think anybody uses a fax still.
I just like saying the word.
I had a client ask for a fax. Like that was the only way that they would communicate with me. And they actually went as far as to say that, like, question that I'm an actual business owner because I don't use a fax. That's how far they went. The dentists use faxes. Lawyers use faxes. Are you sure you actually own a business? Like professionals use faxes, and they didn't have an email address, so I couldn't.
Is this
even
job from the retirement community?
No, it wasn't, which is surprising. Yeah.
I had this lady. I did an estimate for her. She probably lives 25 minutes out of my city. And I was fairly new at contracting. I think this was my second or third year in business. And I said, do you mind if I email you your quote? And she was apprehensive. She's like, well, can you drop it off? I'm like, what the fuck? You're fucking half an hour from me. Like, I don't want to drive back out here and email you or drop off your quote in person. So I said, well, it's sort of far. Whenever you're new in business, $40 in gas is $40 in gas, right?
Yep.
So it would be a lot easier if I could email you. And she didn't want to tell me her email, but then she told me her email, and I realized why she maybe didn't want to tell me her email. It was something like Sexy Bunny 42 or something like that, but she was like 65 years old. And I see how maybe she should have had a different email. But anyway, I emailed her a quote, and I didn't get the job. Someone else got it, and it was a guy with the long toenails, actually, from toenail guy from one of our previous.
Maybe he drove it back.
Maybe he must have drove it back. He probably lived in the neighborhood.
When I used to drive quotes around, they would sit on my dashboard for like a month.
And get weathered and white.
Oh yeah, because I'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna drop these quotes off, and then I'd be like, fuck, I got to get another yard of HPV to finish the job, or we're short of stone, so I got to go get a layer because I can't just buy the stone. I got to buy a whole layer, and I be running around like, and they would just turn yellow or whatever, brittle on the dash, and I'd be like, oh, I never quoted that, whatever.
Yeah,
it just.
Do you still run into that with emailing? I probably have like one or two projects a year where I'm on the fence of whether or not they're going to end up going with me. Do I spend the time going through like calculating the quote and writing it out for them and sending it to them? And then it like goes 1 week, and then I'm like, do I continue to do it? Then it goes 2 weeks. This literally just happened to me last week. This is why I asked. So it went 2 weeks, and I finally sent it out to them. Do you ever have something like that?
I don't answer the phone to begin with. I don't talk to them to begin with.
So you're saying that like you were going to drive it back to meet them?
No, this was an email that I just needed to send out. And then I was kind of iffy on the client, and I just let it run out. And then they contacted me like, hey, when are we going to get that quote? And, every probably one or two clients that happens to me a season where I just push it off and I push it off. And I should
Yeah.
either email them saying, you know what, we're probably not a good fit, or I should just get off my ass and actually calculate it and send it off.
Well, there's never a bad job. There's only a bad price.
Yeah.
That's true.
So I ended up emailing them after 2 weeks.
Calculating.
Did you
it.
get the job, or you?
Well, I
still
don't know.
don't-
This was
I don't
probably
know.
Friday I sent it out.
I procrastinate I hate quoting jobs.
Yeah.
Today, like, so we had a client meeting last night. Kelly and I were there with Nancy and a client when we have the job, but of course they have decided to not build the pergola this year, but they still need the footings under the fucking patio. I was like, can you price the footings? And I'm like, really? Like, I literally just talked about this on a podcast for an hour, but how much fucking hate footings and pricing them and doing them.
Yeah.
And I want nothing to do with it. Like, I want nothing to do with it. But in the end, I'm like, okay. And then we walked up to like the gate where the guys are going to come through to access to the backyard. And they're like, yeah, the irrigation guy is going to rip up this interlock and run his tube under here. And I'm like, oh, is he? Sure he is. Fucking positive that guy's going to do that. And I'm like, man, this is like my entire, like, it's like my life is on repeat. It's like Groundhog Day. Hey, we need these shitty footings. Do you want to do them? No. The irrigation guy is going to be in the way. Perfect. He's going to rip up these pavers. He says he's putting them back down. I know now he's not going to do that.
Yep.
I'm confident he's never putting those pavers back where they're supposed to go. Yep. He will tell you he does. And then when he sees us there, he's going to be like, hardscapers are here. Landscaper can do that. Well, he's busy doing the fence guy's footings. He can throw my pavers back. Fuck off. But it's like, I'm living in Groundhog Day. I'm like, is this like just happen? Like, why is this happening to me over and over again? Like, clearly don't want any, but it's, and today I sent off a quote for 4 footings. That's ridiculously high that I don't think I'm going to make any money on. Because I don't do footings and I don't do doing 4 of them sucks. Like 4 footings at $500 a footing, you're still not making a pound.
No, there's no money there. So did they have to come and inspect them before you put the sonotube on though?
No.
Like, are you just building the little box and putting it in the hole and pouring the concrete and then waiting for them to come and take a picture so you can put the sonotube on the footing and nothing like that?
No, just putting 4 footings and burying them under the patio so that they can tap con into them or however they drill into them later. And the pavers are just we don't even know they're there.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's, I don't know, it's stupid. I just don't want nothing to do with it. It has nothing, like, it's whatever. It's outdoor living, man. Outdoor living.
Mike, what do you do whenever they ask you to do shit like that? Like shit that you obviously don't have a machine there to do, right? Like those little extras.
Typically have a machine there.
Oh, okay,
like,
but what if?
So that this actually this is a great. Like I was just about to say that literally just happened to me, and now the client wants me to take the footings out because they're not going to do the pergola anymore. So then it comes down to I didn't itemize like footings on the quote. How much do I take off the quote for those footings? If I didn't, necessarily go through the exact calculations to be like, okay, this is how much I'm going to quote for the footings. And the client doesn't know like that. I actually think I brought this up on a previous conversation. Like this is another client where they're like, hey, we want to step at this shed. How much would you charge us to put a step at this shed? Hey, we want to do these footings. Now we don't want to do these footings. What are you going to deduct from our bill to take off these footings? Like this kind of turned into a little bit of pain, right? Where like all these little things they like see in a more itemized list now. Of what
roll the dice and say, what do you think those footings are worth?
Well, they're gonna say like $100 a footing, right?
Great. Take off $400. There's no way there's no way you only allowed $100 a footing.
Right. I guess that makes sense. Then they kind of shoot themselves in the foot, right?
Or if they say it's I mean, if they say to you it's $500 a footing, which is probably more realistic, you would say to them, well, I didn't allow that kind of money for a footing. It's only a footing. What are you talking about? And they would be like, oh, yeah, you're right. Like, honestly, I'd be like, what do you think a footing's worth?
That's true. That's a good
question
to ask.
I mean, I can tell, like, I'd calculate a sonotube is $25 per sonotube. I literally just fucking calculated all this shit like 2 hours ago.
It's $25 for the sonotube, but it also takes you an hour to get it. Right?
Yes.
So your labor is $100. It's $125 to get a sonotube.
Yeah. So I charged for 4 sonotubes. I charged $250 because I'm going to the placement.
Yeah.
I agree with you. It costs, but whether I pick up 1 sonotube or 4 sonotubes, it's the same $125 to get the sonotubes, and they're 25. I charge $150 to pick up the sonotubes, and $100 for the sonotubes that were $25 each. So, and then it was like 8 bags of cement, because I'm like, well, whatever. I'm not going to calculate the cost of a gravel and a mixer and all this. So just 8 bags of cement to fill each sonotube is what it said online. I didn't actually calculate the volume. I could, but I don't have zero desire to. So the bags of cement were like $9 right now.
Holy shit!
Well, because there's no cement on the planet.
Wow.
You can't even
sell
get
you
cement.
some.
Well, there you go. Maybe I'll
get
get
a pallet.
Cornwall.
I get a pallet.
I'm coming to Cornwall. So there was, so between the cement and the thing, there was like $100, arguably $150 worth of material with some markup. $200. I think I allowed $200 per sonotube. Now you have labor. So just to perfectly square 4 sonotubes, like, because this isn't like a fence where they all run in a line and it's got to be generally in the right place and you can move the post around to get it straight. And this is like perfectly squaring 4 tubes and then hitting them all in exactly the right level to be 3 inches under the fucking patio height. Like, this is not easy shit like a fence post. So I allowed like 2 guys, I think like half a day, which was another $850.
Yeah.
So I was like $1,500 or $1,600 for these footings. And then I don't want to do it. So I added $500 pin in the ass charge and said it was $2,000. Because I don't want to do it. I don't have nothing to do. Like, it just, and because if it gets fucked up, I'm eating all of that. Like, if there's one of those things is too high, we're cutting it down. Like, it just, one of them, when you're pouring the concrete in, the tube swells up a bit and you don't check it. Although our guys are like crazily anal, so I'm not super worried about that happening. But it just, I'm like, this is all stuff that I want nothing to do with. And at some point next year, I'm going to have to know where those footings are, because when they do build the pergola, they're going to call and be like, where are the footings again? I can't find them under the patio. Like, oh, great, perfect. Like, I say that these people are like the nicest customers. They're so nice. I'm not, and they're just trying to get their job done. I get it, but it just, I'm like, the footings were expensive. Like, say the actual volume of the footings for us as a company was between $1,400 and $1,600. Like, for you by yourself, Mike, you're all day doing that.
Yeah.
That's I don't know how fast you work, but like, I'm assuming you'd be the better part of a day putting in those 4 footings by yourself.
Yeah, no, that's probably what I calculated, something like that.
Oh, I had to allow to get rid of the dirt.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, I allowed something for getting rid of the dirt too, because I'm like, well, I'm not hauling that away for free and it can't stay in the backyard. And if it's 8 bags of concrete going in, it's 8 bags of dirt coming out.
That's right.
Times 4. It's probably at least a yard of dirt coming out of those 4 holes, which you have to dispose of. It's not free. I mean, for us, maybe we haven't been there already or something, but still, it's like a yard. It just, it's not part of something bigger. If it's part of something, like if we were building the whole pergola and you're presenting
the whole thing.
Yeah.
Right. It's all these, like, it's not necessarily like that bugs me that, okay, we quoted footings and now we're going to take out footings. And this is all added up with this client, which is honestly a really nice client. And that's why I'm like, no problem. We'll kind of do these things for you. But I brought it up on another podcast with you guys where they were like, a step at the shed. How much would that cost? After I'd already asked them, like, is this everything that you necessarily need? We're just doing like a basic patio here, a couple steps, blah, blah, blah. And then now it's just been like itemized list after list and then taking things off, blah, blah, blah. Not necessarily like a huge thing to talk about, but yeah, that's something that came up after you kind of talk about those pergola footings that you're getting into yourself there.
My easiest way to calculate extras is to assume that everything you already priced is going to take, obviously, full days. So say, oh, I need another step at the garage. Okay, well, minimum labor charge is $2,000 a day plus materials. It's going to be an extra day on top of whatever we already did. Even if it's not, it either shuts it down right there or opens it up and say, okay, let's talk about it. But I found that's the easiest way to calculate for us with extras. And I think there's like a whole algorithm for it too, right? Like whenever you add extras, say you were to plant 7 trees, sure, that takes you a day. But if you were to plant 8 trees, it takes you a day plus whatever. So that 8th tree costs now 4 times as much as the other 7 or something like that, because it follows into the next day. That's just the math that I use in my head. Maybe it's wrong too. I don't know, but it's worked for us.
Well, I think there's an argument when you say that, because you're losing potential sales on another job, revenue elsewhere. And if it only takes a half day, you're losing a whole day.
Yeah.
If putting in 2 stairs in some weird spot in the backyard is going to take you a half a day, you're honestly losing a whole day. But you're not going to do like you or the guys, or you're not doing something with that other half. Like being real about the situation, nothing's going to happen in that other half a day.
Yeah.
Like it's just like not, especially if it's something at the end, like the footings, I did a half day because we'll do the excavation, then we'll do the footings, then they'll put down the geotextile, then they'll bring in the 3/4. So it could realistically be a half day. But if it's at the end of the job and someone said to me, I want to add a step by the shed, I'd be like, okay, well, I'm losing a whole day on that no matter what I do. By the time I get the step, get it down there, dude, like you're losing a whole day.
It's kind of like you have a client, you're on site, it's getting close to the end of the job, and they're asking you, can you do like this for us? And it's like, is this a change order? Is this not a change order? Except it's happening at the beginning of the job, right? Which is better for me because I can actually calculate for that. But that's kind of like the issue that I'm in, is like, realistically, how much does it cost me to place a step for them when they already know the cost of the step and I just have to place that step for them? Base is already prepared, but like that doesn't do anything one of these for big, me,
like,
right?
Solid, one of those solid like 4-foot steps.
Yes.
Okay, the easy ones.
Yeah.
Well, but that being said, that's easier for you because you have 6 guys. It's not easy for Mike.
Yeah.
It's you guys one guy.
I've been there though. It does suck to do it alone or have to ask for help to get. How do you get one of those things out of the back of your pickup truck and into?
Oh, it gets delivered, and like I've got a vacuum lift that will, with my rental, we're good. And I do have another guy with me, so we're good.
Okay. Yeah.
It's just like that sort of, those sort of things kind of,
But you have an investment in the rental, an investment in the vacuum lifter, an investment in the staff member, like an investment in your time, the delivery cost. Like people look at the step and it says, well, anything. Like people go to the supply yard and they're like, oh, this Pavers at $549. I'm like, yeah, but you haven't done shit with
it. True.
Like it's sitting at the supplier's yard. It's not delivered. It's not stacked 3 high on some boulevard because you can't put fuck all on the road anymore. Now you need an $80,000 machine to lift the bundles down to drive them up, whether you rent it or own it. I'm like, yeah, the paver is $579 a square foot, but you haven't done anything with that. It's just existing at a supplier. You pay them. I've said to people, go pay them $579 and see how that goes for you with the patio.
Yeah.
Great. So what do you want to do now? Like you want a pigeon to bring out brick? Like what do you like? It all has to come here. Like $579 is a meaningless number when it comes to the pavers. Like it's like I have a standard charge per square foot that includes delivery, fucking around on the job site, restacking layers, putting plastic in between. Because even if you want to move a lot of these pavers now, like before, okay, you used to dump tumbled pavers into a wheelbarrow and wheelbarrow them. However you move them, who cares? They're chipped, they're busted, it doesn't matter. But if you want to move 2 layers of some kind of face mix paver, you put 1 layer on a skid, then you put a piece of or even if you're putting them in a wheelbarrow, you put 1 down, put plastic in between, put another, because you can't scrape up the top. Like the whole process is so long now.
Yeah.
So if it's $5 a square foot for the paver, like who cares? Like that's an irrelevant number. It's the cheapest part of the number. Like the cost of the pavers is virtually irrelevant to the rest of the crap that has to go on, unless you're getting into a big scale. Like talking a standard 300 square foot patio, like the cost of building the patio between a $10 square foot paver and a $5 square foot paver is like $1,200 on a 300 square foot patio.
Yeah.
Because who cares? It's $4. Like the cost of the material is $1,200, but the cost of moving the material remains the same. So it's literally like if someone's only doing 300 square feet, I'm like, pick whatever paver you want. You won't give a shit about the $1,500 difference it costs between a $10 square foot paver and a $5 square foot paver.
Yeah.
But you will care if it's 4,000 square feet or 5,000 square feet. You're going to start to care about the volume of the cost of the paver. But when it's a small patio, who cares? It's the everything else surrounding that paver costs more than what the paver costs.
True.
Like you just bought how much hate did you get over the vacuum lifter?
I was gonna wonder that because Mike took a little bit of heat for that for renting it, didn't you?
Oh yeah, I got like crushed. I got crushed on the video, like not just in the DMs, but on the video I got crushed.
You have to remember I don't have the same kind of pull as you, right? Like I'm nowhere near as popular as Paver King. But I got a couple.
So people don't think you're lazy? Is that what like?
No, that was not in the equation at all.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying, like,
I'm just saying, the eyes aren't on me the way they are on you, right? So, obviously, you'll have more comments based on more people just watching.
Did anyone fly you any hate?
I had a couple guys saying that looks painfully slow, and the obvious response to that is, yeah, but if it saves one back injury, then you're ahead of the game, right? It's people are more interested in how much the thing costs, which is a lot.
How much does the thing cost? I'm interested.
30?
No, upwards. Like if you're at $30,000, that's about 75% of the cost of that machine. But so remember, it goes on an MT100. Which is another $42,000, right? So in order to suck these pavers and put them down, your all-in cost is about $80,000, right? And the thing,
well, and you need another unit to move the skids around.
Yeah, that's it, right? So we have to have our full-size skid there and the mini there. I don't think it was the most economical choice, but it's all they had available, and my guys are absolutely on board to not hurt themselves and not be completely wrecked at the end of a day. Like
how many, like you were saying another week that you do a lot of that thick paver. It's like the school board standard.
Yeah.
So how much of that do you guys lay a year?
Usually between 5,000 and 7,500 square feet a year.
Yeah. So.
Over the past 5 years or so. It depends on the school board. Some of the other school boards use like brick lock, 4x8s and stuff. But I mean, it's not just for that, right? Like we do full surrounds with those big 22 by 30 some tiles or whatever. It'll really excel there where I don't have to be in the shovel on the other end of the sucker, just moving them, right? The guys can do it themselves. The only thing we don't love about it is that the reach isn't phenomenal at all. It's I want to say like 9 or 10 feet from where your pallet is, which is okay, I guess, but we were hoping for some big reach on it.
So we had one of the ones with tracks that you stand on. Mm-hmm. We rented it for 3 days or whatever. We laid an 80 mil patio with it, or an 80 mil driveway. We laid with it. I got it because it was 80 mil stone. And at the time I was 50. One guy was 63. The other guy was 52. And we were laying the 80 mil driveway, 1,500 square feet. And I was like, I just looked at the pavers when they got shipped. And I was like, I don't think the three of us have it in us to lay that driveway. Like,
you shouldn't ask that of someone, right? Like, or should you? Like, am I wrong in thinking?
Well, I used to ask it of people all the time, but
yeah, I know, but
you're woke, Chad, so you wouldn't.
Ouch! Ouch! That hurts so bad. No, like, I wouldn't want to do it. Why would I want my guys to do it? You know,
and
it's not that I'm lazy.
No.
I work just as hard as the next guy, but I don't want to do that.
So we laid the driveway in a day and a half with the Unilift. And on the tracks, it's some works on the MT. We just put a piece of plywood down and rolled it forward, and
Yeah.
we could get the skid close enough that it swung back far enough to bring them. And to be honest, like, I don't think 3 old guys and 1 totally useless 16-year-old would have laid the driveway in a day and a half. And if we did lay it in a day and a half, we would have been totally exhausted. And every time it was a 3-size random, and every time a line got too long or the whole 4 corners bullshit was going on, whatever, it's painful to get those out.
Yeah.
And with the vacuum, and at the end of a day and a half, we went through, we picked out the ones we wanted to switch or ones we weren't happy with. Lines were too long. We looked it all over. We put it on the float and I took it back the next morning. And in a day and a half, none of us were tired.
That's it. Yeah.
And we were all happy and none of us were hurt. Like,
yeah. At the end of the week, I got a thank you instead of a fuck you, don't make me do that again, which is probably, a testament to.
Do you think that with that, say a normal crew laying that paver, you would send 3 guys because it's heavy and you don't want 2 guys, but now you could send 2 guys to lay that paver with that machine?
Yeah, we had 2 guys lay probably 12 pallets a day, or about 100 square feet per pallet. So yeah, for reference, we did the same material, I want to say 4 years ago, at a 5,500 square foot job. We had one of our student workers, I guess. I'm not sure he was still a student. He was good as a student, so we hired him the next year as a regular worker. But this kid was a $120 soaking wet, like string bean, super tall. But after the day of moving these big Lexus pavers, he collapsed in the ditch. He just felt that, not in a medical emergency sort of way, but he was so exhausted that he collapsed in the ditch and just laid there and contemplated his life as a landscaper, right? Like, you could tell that was it for him. He wasn't going to be a landscaper his whole life after that day, right? So absolutely, it was better for the guys to use this machine now than to burn their days 4 or 5 years ago without it, right? So I guess it's money well spent.
So we bought a Toro buggy this year. And
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, no, go ahead. Like, if you have an opinion on it,
I don't. Where does the buggy excel that a mini skid steer doesn't? Like, I don't.
So the buggy holds about 4. So an RS70 with the 36-inch package on it, 4 buckets fit in the buggy. So it carries 4 times as much.
But you have to have something at the road to load it.
Well, we still have the S70, except that instead of, like, the S70 would make 4 trips for every 1 buggy trip.
Yeah.
So the S70 loads the buggy, and then it's loading from the pile right beside it. And then I would say, like, production on our jobs has gone way up because of the buggy, because it just carries such a heavy volume. And the excavator, it's easier to dig into the buggy, and the buggy carries more. But more along the lines of what you're saying, like, even though we're down 2 staff members on the residential crew, having tools like the buggy, the guys are like, yeah, we're good. Like, are we looking for, I think 4 was too many. I think we're trying to stick with 3 moving forward. Are we looking for the 3rd team member? Absolutely. But it has to be the right person. If it isn't, we'll roll with 2, and we have a E20 and a buggy and a S70, and they all work well together in tandem. And the buggy fits almost anywhere they need it to go, and it carries all kinds of weight. It carries about 1.5 yards at a time.
So are the guys judging this buggy the same way they're judging the Unilift? Like, are you lazy for using the buggy and not a wheelbarrow?
People love.
So why?
Buggies.
Like, why? Why is it okay to have a buggy but not to have a U-lift or Unilift?
Andy Mulder has a buggy. I don't know.
Yeah, I think Unilock sponsors his whole podcast, though, doesn't he? Like, he should have one of these lifts.
The hatred. So for me, I love the idea of the Unilift. I think it's sick.
Same.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome. Like if next spring, if that's an investment, if we have some fair sized slab jobs and stuff, and that's an investment that we want to make, then I would buy that thing all day. I really liked it. I thought it was great. Even if it only came out of the yard 7 times, 8 times a year, if it saves one back injury, keeps one person still wanting to be a landscape. I loved it. It wasn't me that had but just the amount of people online that I'm like, okay, I don't know. It seemed crazy. They're like, well, you're lazy and slow. And I'm like, I'm fat and old. Of course I'm lazy and slow. I just have an expensive machine now. Like, I was lazy and slow before. Like, what are you talking about? Like, now there's just a machine here. I think it's faster, to be honest, than we would be doing it normally. And I went home. I really liked it. When I saw you bought one, I was like, wow, that's a good. I like the one that we had with the tracks.
Yeah.
For that reason. But if it was the only one was available was the one that went on the MT, then I understand.
Yeah. That's it. Like, we would have went with a full size where we could pick up the pallet with the skid steer and use the sucker that was right attached to it and everything, right? Like, this is all that we could get.
Yeah.
So can we upgrade in the future? Absolutely. We're not married to this thing forever, right?
Yeah.
And maybe we'll sell it to one of these guys who was talking shit one year and then realize, oh, you know what? Maybe it's worth not hurting my back again or hurting one of my guys' backs, right? Maybe we can flip it for 2/3 of the price or something like that and still and make it work with a bigger machine next year, right? But like, I don't see how you'd get the hate for it. Obviously you did, but I don't see how that is even an argument. Whatever. People are always going to talk shit, right, on the internet.
I'm going to guess that most of those people that were talking shit to me about it won't even be in landscaping 10 years from now because they'll hurt their backs.
True. Especially with everything being big slab now, right? Like, I can't remember the last time I laid an 8x8 paver, or other than a 4x8, obviously, right? Like a standard brick lock. I can't remember the last time I used a small format paver. Holy shit. It's been a while. Yeah, because it's been all 60 mil modular patterns or large format pavers. So.
A lot of the guys have fabricated boom extension on their excavators. Have you guys seen those? Where they just add like a vacuum lifter to those and then sling slabs that way?
Yeah. My partner has one of those. For sure it helps. We were actually thinking of doing the same thing with the Unilift, like a sliding jib that'll give us an extra 6 or 8 feet or something like that, just because we're really limited with how far we can swing pavers with this thing. But let's say that you're in like an 8-ton shovel, which is not uncommon for us around here. We just have so much yard space as opposed to maybe some of the Toronto jobs and stuff. Like, you can reach a good 15 feet or so, which is nice without the extending jib. But yeah, they're neat to have.
I find that I don't think we've done one slab job this year just because we don't have a vacuum lifter, and I don't think anyone's asked for them. But I would say that like at least 85 to 90% of our jobs now, people just let us pick out the product. Like, very rarely does someone like go through the catalogs anymore and spend a bunch of time on it. And that's just my experience in the last year. Most of these people are just doing whatever we suggest. So we're not like getting some of that equipment into small backyards is hard to do those big slabs. So I think the last slab job we did was, I also have struggled in the past with any kind of grade expectation with those big slabs. If it's not level or 2% or like, it just,
single plane, right?
Single plane that can't bend, or like, so I, like a lot of the times this year we've been 60 mil, 3 size modular pavers, which is a whole bunch of them. And then normally, like, I started typing suggestions in.
Yeah, I've always given suggestions.
Yeah, like and so I just, if I was in your situation where I could get like an 8-ton excavator in the backyard and swing slabs with it, I'd be like, fuck yeah, let's do
yeah,
that.
you sort of sell to what you have available, right?
Yeah.
Like to use. And
Yeah.
for us, like we put in a 1,400 square foot pool surround in 6 days. That's digging, grading, packing, laying, and that sand there, that wet sand or whatever it is. Just because it, like, to lay slabs, it only took 2 days. I can't remember the last time I laid and cut in 1,400 square feet modular 3-piece in 2 days. Maybe I'm just lazy. I don't know. Anyway, nobody hurt their back. It was awesome. So we'd sell around that, or we'd sell to that feature, right? Like, yeah, big slab, it'll go fast. It'll be great. Especially if you're using that polymer there, the resin stuff, the fewer joints, because that takes forever to put in. Yeah. We did a Twinkie size job, probably like 2,000 square feet of just small wrecks, and it took 2 days of resin compound. It was awful. Everybody was so sore. Like we could have used that. What do they have? A machine for that too?
Yeah, they have a spinning broom.
A spinning broom. That's right. Does that work? Does anyone use that?
See, it's kind of like a power broom, Chad.
Yeah.
Installing some sand. But I don't want to be anyone's role model. Just saying.
Yeah, so don't install your poly sand with a power broom, or else someone's going to tell you not to do that.
You're a role model, so
I'm not a role
People
model.
Look up to you.
Don't do anything that I do, but don't come at me when it doesn't work for you. Because all you see is the good stuff, right? You never see when shit doesn't work. Actually, landscape daddy will tell you when things don't work. Natural design will tell you when things don't work. That's
when your hydro seed doesn't grow.
Yeah.
Like any time in the summer, right? And you're just doing it to fulfill contractual obligations.
When it doesn't, do they make you come back?
Oh yeah. But so we're doing this thing now where we put perennial ryegrass in along with all of our mixes, because ryegrass is just like weed, right? It'll germinate more so in the heat of summer than anything else. So it sort of tricks
wildflowers.
Yeah. Well, oh my God, you want to hear a wildflower story? Last fall, I got a call from one of our GCs. They said, "Are you sure about your hydro seed price?" Yeah. Said the next price we have is 20 times as high as you. I'm like, okay, well, let's look at this here together. It was some fucking native wildflower mix that I think one bag of this stuff, it was something like $200 a kilo, which is insane because usually you get like a 50-kilo bag for $200 or whatever, right? So yeah, it was just completely out to lunch. I'm like, yeah, I think so. Call my seed supplier. He's like, no, your price is absolutely right, but the sowing rate is wrong. You're sowing at 1/10 of the actual normal seeding rate, right? So you could be spraying and it looks like fucking nothing, right? So they're like, well, do you want to use your price or do you want to go higher? I'm like, fuck, I want to go higher. I want to be at 20 times what I'm at. If that's what everybody else is at, what do I have to lose? So anyway, we got the job. So we'll see if something else was wrong in the wash. I'll let you know if we're going to lose our shirt on this.
On the wildflowers?
On this wildflower mix that's sown at 1/10 of the regular rate. Anyway.
So that'll be on the Landscape Daddy if it goes
That'll
wrong.
be on the Landscape
Natural
Daddy.
Design Landscapes if
it's
it
right.
goes right.
Yeah. That's it.
There's beautiful wildflowers. We'll make a video and post it on natural.
With the hottest song of today or whatever it is.
The hottest song.
The hottest song of
A
today.
great eggplant recipe.
A great eggplant recipe. Wildflower salad.
A wildflower salad. We had that once with some kind of weird glue at some Go Train thing.
You had a weird glue?
It was some kind of weird glue that had to go into the joints. And
is that the one where you were taping the seams of the pavers? No, that's something else.
Why were we doing that? I remember doing that. I fucking remember why we did that. I remember this was something like,
wasn't it like a textured paver that you couldn't get sand in the paver?
Yeah, that was something that went on. Oh, that was that. So those pavers are made out of seashells and come from China, and
everything great comes from China.
Well, I digress. The falsehood when people say permeable pavers, it's actual permeable joints in the pavers, right? Gotcha, the pavers are not permeable. The joints are permeable. So with the seashell pavers, whatever they're called, the paver is permeable, and the joints are not. So if you hold that paver, which maybe I'll go to I know there's still a skid of them at the spa. I'll get one and I'll do an Instagram thing with it. But like, if you pour water on the paver, the water pours through the paver. The paver itself is permeable. So you tape over all the pavers when you sand it, and then you pour the sand in the joints and apply it with a hammer. Because if you spread it over it, the joints will get full of polymers and harden, and the paver won't be permeable anymore. So the reason it's stupid. Yeah.
Whose bright idea as an engineer was this?
So the reason we were using them on that job was because that spa has 7 outdoor pools where you enter and exit out of the pool. And a traditional paver, even if it's permeable, becomes slimy because it's wet all the time. And the water lays in it and it doesn't get down the joints fast enough. And they don't want people walking on HPB when they come out of the pool. Yeah. And it creates this whole headache. So these pavers are in like a 3x4 entrance to every of the 7. Some of the pools have multiple entrances. So those pavers are at the entrance and exit of every pool as you walk through the spa, because they stay dry because the water goes through them. So, I mean, it was if you were doing some like huge installation of them,
then it wouldn't make sense.
We had sand in water bottles with a hole in them, like putting it, like, it was stupid. But like, I understand why they were using those pavers. Like, because the pavers themselves are super cool. I'm gonna see if I can find one, because they were really cool. Like, but that was a different problem than the one I was talking about. A totally different problem.
Totally different problem. This is what you deal with, different problems every day.
I said to our client yesterday,
contracting.
I said to our client yesterday, because he's decided he's building an Argentine barbecue, which is like super cool and really weird. It's like this, like the meat hangs, and I don't know. Anyways, really a neat thing. I've never seen it before, but he's decided to build it himself. And so I said, like, well, how big do you want it? And he was like, oh, I don't know. And I said, well, what kind of stone are you using? Because I'm going to guess you're going to want it to be fairly modular, bro. Like, you're not gonna, like, being a homeowner, you probably don't want to spend an effing long time cutting this thing. Like, since you have a grinder, like, and I think he just wants to, he wants to build it himself because he just wants to build part of the backyard himself. And this grill is very important to him and his heritage. And so I was trying to help him with it. I don't remember what the fuck.
If you really wanted to help him, why didn't you let him borrow a kick-out?
Well, I could have, yeah. Except then he cuts his foot off and sues me.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother like issue. Going through the insurance shit. Like, so basically, like, we have a skid steer that sits at our yard all the time, and there's a couple other people at the yard that sometimes, and that will jump in and use it, right?
Yeah.
Well, like, now that you're actually looking into your insurance, they don't work for us. If they killed themselves, well, they might not sue us, but I don't know this guy's fucking daughter. This guy's daughter might sue us. This guy's dead now. He killed himself in our skid steer. And his daughter's like, well, I'm suing you because my dad. And I'll be like, well, your dad wouldn't have sued us. And she's like, I don't care. My dad's dead, bro. I'll be like, yeah, okay, I see it. So now, like, I'm going to
Well, yeah, but are they aware that you have all these skid steer safety videos that people should be watching to prevent things like this?
Might not help me in the court.
That should be an insurance question.
I tried to
What kind of
mitigate
safety videos do you have
Maybe that's
available
why-
to your staff?
They did. They said one of the questions was, when was the last time you trained your staff on circle checks for your trucks?
Perfect.
I was like, they know how to fill out the fucking paperwork, so if they get pulled over, it's right. Like, anyways, in talking to this guy about like the complications of building an Argentinian grill in his backyard, at the end of the conversation, I said to him, I said, landscaping's hard, eh? And he was like, this is way harder than I ever expected. And I was like, oh yeah, bro, you are just at the tip of the iceberg. You haven't even dealt with the fucking irrigation guy that needs to run his pipe under your fucking Argentinian grill. Like, we had this job where we had to put this caulking in for the GO train station. And it was natural. It was like they poured all the cement, and there was runners of natural stone everywhere. And you had to put like caulking in. And like, I don't know, I didn't price this, so this wasn't my mistake. I have made lots. This is not one of them. And so I went to buy the caulking or ordered or whatever, and it was like $97 a tube.
Wow.
Like the spec caulking. So I called the boss guy, I said, bro, like this caulking is going to be $17,000. Like, did you allow for this before I order it? He's like, holy fuck. He allowed for like, PL, like PL caulking or something. Because he did, like, it says like such and such and a number behind it. And he was like, oh yeah, caulking, man. Oh yeah, it's $10 a tube, blah, blah, blah. That stuff's like $90 a tube, bro. Like, but that was like a huge, the same as the wildflower seed thing, right? Like, it was just a spec thing. That was.
Yeah, we actually, another contractor we worked with before we started doing their seeding, they were doing it themselves. And it was some stupid wildflower mix, but it was spec'd by an engineer in Toronto. And we're obviously not near Toronto. So they bought one bag of the expensive stuff, the expensive wildflower mix, and then they bought 30 bags of the cheapest shit you could get. And they ripped off the tag to the expensive shit, sent that to the engineer, and used the cheap shit on the rest. And no problem. That was it. That's it. That's all you heard about that, right? And maybe you could have done the same thing with his expensive caulking.
I don't remember. To be honest, I remember the whole thing happening. It was funny how you don't remember the solution to the problem. I think he went and said to them, hey, I'm going to use this caulking, and got it approved or something through the landscape architect or the engine. Like, because it was like, even the dealer was like, this caulking's stupidly expensive for no fucking reason. And people buy it for some specific item that's not bulk installation.
Yeah.
That was like some kind of natural stone plus that caulking, plus it was all in these like weird individual runners everywhere in the cement. And I can't remember what we priced it at. I think it was like $46 a square foot. And like, even I was like, he's like, yeah, we're getting like $46. I said, I think we're still taking a bath on this, bro. This fucking weird stone from China is like $26 a square foot. And these tubes of caulking are $79 a piece. And it's taking forever because it's like putting in one individual stone in these huge runners in concrete that isn't formed properly because no one gave a fuck about the landscaper. So it's like wavy and trying to cut it straight and they don't fit in properly. I was like, I think we're still taking a bath on this. For like, if you thought this was going to be like a profit center, you are drastically wrong. Drastically wrong. Like, it just.
I've been there.
So in the end, like, I started saying to the homeowner, like, you should think about using like the Ucara barbecue system and then changing it to because it's like that metal. It's like all metal things you bolt together and then you just hang the stones on the Ucara stones and you can cut them with a grinder and stuff. I was like, I feel like this is a bit more up your alley than, like busting out some kind of 2-piece wall system Like I was like, bro, I think this is probably like, because if you got to cut it, it's pretty easy to cut that stuff. And you can, because he's like, oh, I want a wood box underneath. And I'm like, do you understand the complications of building a wood box, dude? Like having,
and then angle iron and notched into the, yeah.
And he's going to pour his own concrete countertop.
My father-in-law did that. It turned out really good.
It looks sick when it's done.
They look great when they're done. Yeah. Cheap too, right? Like, I mean, you got to build the forms. You got to put some time into it, but
yeah.
I don't think I would do it for a client. I wouldn't do it for a client, but if somebody else did, I would be okay with that.
I wouldn't do it for a client because I don't know shit about it. I don't do anything for a client that I don't know shit about.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm no one's Mike Holmes episode. I'm not. People ask me to do show. I'm like, I'm not going to be on Mike Holmes. Fuck you.
What about that new reality show that Chad dug up there? The Get It Done in 12 Hours?
But yeah, I everybody's asked me about that. I forget the name every single time. But it's a Netflix thing. Can we say Netflix on this podcast? Do you get in trouble for?
I'm sure they won't listen.
Well, what if
we're number 233? Netflix is out. Like Netflix is whatever it is that monitors every word. It's cutting this. Spotify is going to alert Netflix that we use their name.
And we're in trouble. Anyway, this unrealistic show where you have 12 hours to reno a house just so happens to have a landscape portion to it, right? And obviously, things don't go.
Watching this show,
my wife watches this.
Okay,
show.
good.
Why would I watch this on my own?
I have not. That's why I asked. It seemed like not something that you would tune into on your own. That's
no, it's
like it was a legitimate question.
No, yeah, I suppose. So my wife turned me on to this. She actually took a picture of the pavers that they were using on there, and she sent it to me. She's like, "Look, you use this stuff." Yeah, I do use that stuff. Anyway, so in this show, they're having a hard time because they can't get the pavers close to the patio because of the mud. But they also think the solution to the situation is to lay these pavers in the mud so that there will be no more mud with no concept of how they're going to look in a year.
How did they look in 12 hours?
Not great. Like they showed it quickly, right? Like my guys have a saying that if something is done half-ass, not that we do things half-ass, but they'll say it looks good from the 401 when we're not anywhere remotely near the 401. The phrase is just looks good from the 401. Anyway, if I had to say the job looked good from the 401, but it was briefly in passing. Well, we talk shit about how jobs look after however long, right? Whenever they're not done properly. This is a prime example of something not being done properly.
Have you guys ever had somebody reach out to you and be like, "Hey, I had a contractor do this. Is this right? Or is this like, what do you think about this?" And then like, do you guys actually give advice?
I've had that happen to me before. I won't give out advice. I'm not your detective. I'm not here to solve someone else's problem. If you're going to pay me to fix it, sure. But I'm not going to talk shit about someone else. I don't know the circumstance. I don't know why they did it the way they did. I wouldn't want someone talking shit about me for something that they had no clue why I installed it a certain way or something like that. Yeah, that's it. I won't badmouth someone else's work unless you're going to pay me to fix it. And then I'll tell you what I would do differently so that it doesn't happen again.
I got paid once to do an assessment of an armor stone retaining wall for court.
Wow.
And I had
interesting.
Yeah, it was like holding a house in a hill. Like it was like a reverse walkout. And like I could stick my arm in it and there was no backfill and there was like I know it's armor stone, but in my world, you'd still do proper backfill with grid and like, I just some cloth maybe so that there wasn't like, dirt pouring out of the front face. I don't know, it was just very poorly built wall. And I did an assessment of it for court. I didn't know who built it. And then I had like a paralegal guy call me once and asked me to start doing assessments of landscapes so he could sue the landscapers for the homeowners.
Yikes.
And I was like, he sent me to a couple of them. I said, yeah, I'll go look at it. I just did it out of interest sake. And I went and looked at them and I was like the problems that the people were complaining about to me were either aesthetic problems or problems that they probably authorized. So I emailed the guy back and said, yeah, like one of them was the guy used some kind of natural stone curbing up the sides of the driveway that was like really expensive and worth a lot of money. And they were complaining it was cutting their car tires when they ran it over. This is like on my sheet. And I'm like, okay, but like you didn't know this dude was putting this shit up the side and like there was a material that I can't remember what it was called. It was like a wet cast company that made material for a while. They used to sell it through Home Depot and stuff. And the paver, and when I saw it in the driveway, I was like, this might be an actual problem. But then I took the time to look up what was in the driveway, and it was like an 80 mil thick wet cast paver that met the aspect ratio. So I was like, you cannot like how this looks, but there's nothing wrong with the application of it. So I sent the back guy thing and said, yeah, like I'm not participating in this. Like this is a bunch of aesthetic issues that someone's unhappy with their project and now they're trying to sue someone. Like, great, that go ahead. But I don't want fuck all to do with it. And then I've done tons of like where people have called me to fix stuff and I've showed up and been like, they're like, hey, my backyard's super fucked up. And I'm like, yeah, it's super fucked up. Like, interestingly, one I went to 2 years ago was like one of the most fucked up backyards I've ever been in. It was like a pool that was in a sunken backyard surrounded by walls. There was a lot of really weird grade things going on. And to me, there should have been at least 3 or 4 slot drains just to lose the water somehow. But if it's your first job and you've never used a slot drain and you don't think about it, you end up trying to make the grades work where they can't. You're either going to the house, the pool, or the wall, or like it just. And it was before the magic sand, or it's not sand, it's magic jointing material that Chad loves.
The resin stuff.
Resin, yeah. So,
which I like it. I don't love it. They say a 5-year warranty on this stuff, right? You can't trust their fucking 15-year warranties for sand. This is a third of that. Are you supposed to trust that too?
Maybe it's more realistic.
Maybe it could be right. They could maybe somebody got it right this time.
Apparently, it's readily used in Europe before it came over here.
Yeah, because it rains so much in Europe. When are you Palmeric sanding in Britain?
Right.
Or Ireland, Scotland, but the 3 days a year it fucking doesn't rain. I went to Scotland once and it rained. We were there 27 days and it rained 26 days. The only day it didn't rain was the day we were leaving.
No way.
I was like, no wonder like everyone's drinking in the pub here. Just fucking pisses rain every day. Now, mind you, I was there in just January. I think it was the end of December going into January after Christmas, which probably wasn't prime season, but.
Do we have any listeners in Scotland?
Well,
Ireland?
that's a great question.
Nothing yet.
I know we do well in Australia.
Really? We should go on a tour.
We should go on a tour. World tour.
Head down to Australia.
Yeah.
So the backyard that was super screwed up, what made that backyard interesting was that lady asked me to give a price to fix it. So I don't know. Like the original job, they got charged $60,000, and I think my price to fix it was $85,000 or something because the material's all garbage. You might as well throw it away by the time and it was all big slabs. So by the time you get them up and move them, they're scratched and broken. And anyways, I never heard back from her, but this year the contractor's been using that job as their advertising on Facebook.
Oof.
Which, from the overheads and stuff, job looks fucking great. But I'm looking at it going, I don't know if that's the one that I would pick to use as my advertisement on Facebook. But
from the bird's eye view, it looks great.
Bird's eye view, it's a sick looking job.
Looks great from the 401.
Yeah.
We always say it looks great. It'll look great from my house.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a commercial thing, I think.
Is it?
Well, that's what we. Because some engineer tells you to do something or some GC, and it's absolutely ludicrous, and it's like, whatever, it looks good for my house. I don't give a fuck.
That's it. That's got to be where it comes from.
Like I've done so many things in my life where it's like, this is totally idiotic.
Yep.
But I'm like, whatever. This is what the engineer wants, or this is what the town's insisting we do.
Yeah.
Like, the town got pissed off at a developer we used to do a lot of work for. And so the developer had bought like an old horse farm, like, I don't know, like hundreds of acres of it. And part of it was being left as a forest. And on one of the drawings of the like 500 drawings that existed for this neighborhood, on one of the drawings in tiny print, it said, remove fence. That's it. And so the town was pissed, like absolutely pissed at some guy just texted me and said, can you move a pool for me Tuesday? I'm like, no, bro, it's almost Tuesday. Like, it's Monday today. It's like, oh, no, I'm not doing that. So
you didn't want to bug you on the holiday.
It was like it was the tiniest thing on the one single drawing. It said developer to remove fencing. And there was like hundreds and hundreds of kilometers of fencing for the horses in these woods. And we had like 5 or 6 guys by the hour removing this fencing for 6 months.
Wow.
With 2 machines and an excavator. But some of it was so deep in the woods. Like you had to remove it by hand. Like you couldn't get to it because the trees were like, it was. And we used to say, like a lot of days there, we'd be like, whatever, it looks good from our house. Like, no one's going back in the woods. No one will ever be near this fence. Like it was crazy. It was like the town just sticking it up the developer's ass. On the flip side of that developer was closing 400 houses a month at that time. So
wow,
they really gave a shit. At like $750,000 a house. Like doing $300 million a month worth of business. Like our bill for 300 grand for fence removal seemed like a lot to us, but to them it was like a meaningless amount of money to keep the town off their back.
Well, sometimes you need a win like that, though. Ride that gravy train.
Oh yeah. That's when we used to have A crew, B crew, and C crew. So fence removal was a C crew job.
Yeah.
C crew rode that bitch forever.
Sometimes it just feels good to have people out there working at their own. Like it doesn't even matter if they're doing a lot. Like you just sent them out. Yeah, they're working. I don't have to worry about them today. That's how it feels for me, at least.
I'm happy. Like I'm ecstatic with that. I think it's great.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing I like about our commercial crew. It's like it's a subcontracted crew, right? So they go out every day and work for our clients or our one client basically, and they already we supply supply the manpower, we supply the tools, we supply the machines if needed, and they go out and crush jobs for our client, and our client loves it, and our guys love it, and it's a great system, and we get to do a lot of jobs that we would never ever get to participate in because I would never be able to front those jobs, or I don't have the staff to. A lot of the jobs, and a lot of the jobs they do are crazily complex.
Yeah,
so it's great. I love it too. I think it's great. I love having guys.
It's great. You'll never get rich working that way, but it's not all about getting rich. It's cool to do.
It's like hitting a single every day.
Yeah, but they add up too, right? Like,
they do, yeah.
Singles add up for sure.
Yeah, you single enough days in a row, you get home.
Yep, that's it.
And
Is that pond spa job done there, Mike?
No.
That you were on?
No, it's still going on. We've had a
Oh,
crew
yeah.
there every day since last April.
They're still
Wow.
putting sand in the seashells there.
Probably. They're saying I was there this week. We delivered a bunch of regrind there, and I did 3 loads of it. So they're saying we've had a crew. We have a crew there. They're saying September 8th. I think they're going to open it to the public.
That's next week.
This like 3
Yeah.
days from now?
That's 3 days.
Yeah. So I was there.
It didn't look like it was going to be 3 days.
I don't know what part of it they're like. To be fair to them, like I haven't been deeply involved in that job since January. Like I spent 6-8 months there every day, 6 days a week. But I haven't since January. I haven't really been there. Our crew's been there. So I know they've made a lot of great progress on it. Like as a team, everyone, like our crew, there's like 6 crews working on it every day. I know the team leaders pretty well there and the project manager, and I know they've made great progress on it, but it is it's a crazy project. It's the craziest project I've ever participated in my life. But yeah, it's supposed to open on the 8th in some regard. Maybe just the massage area or something, I know it said you can, there was an article in the TO blog saying you can start booking there.
Gotcha.
Are we bringing this to an end?
I think so.
Is this the end?
2.5 hours.
The hour.
That's been an hour. Do we have enough for a extended hour? What's it called?
I don't think so, because I think we went like half an hour, 45 minutes just talking, and then we did the How to Hardscape, and then I think we're like just a little bit past our hour right now.
That's okay. Not everyone has to be an extended hour.
Well, it makes
Although
it more
most of them won't
special.
be.
It makes it more special.
It
more
does.
special.
Who
Yeah.
was the person that was concerned about the end?